Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the AME Food Testing Show. Today's topic, 9 high-pressure wash issues for food production with Kevin Netzer, as the National Sales Manager for Ultimate Washer. He was educated at the University of Florida in Business Management, has worked as a National Sales Manager with Ultimate Washer for the last 5 years. He's a member of the Cleaning Equipment Trade Association, also a member of the Interclean, International Cleaning Association, member of the Water Jetting Technology Association, and a member of the Power Washers of North America Association. All of these memberships are geared to gaining specific knowledge in certain cleaning applications and to share new technologies. Now, welcome with me, Kevin Netzer. Kevin?
Yes, good morning, Andy.
Good morning. Would you like to add anything to your introduction?
No, I think you did a fine job. Thank you very much.
Well, Kevin, we're very excited this morning, and I'm sure many of our listeners who are food production, food quality, food safety, and food security managers are also interested in what you have to say, particularly in the area of these high-pressure washers that are used throughout food production plants. First, let's talk about what is the importance of scheduled maintenance cleaning in food production facilities.
Well, you know, as a person here that sells high-pressure cleaning equipment, oftentimes we talk to a lot of corporations, food production plants that have high-level concerns with respect to regular schedules for cleaning. And when they come to us, they ask specific questions about what types of equipment they should use, and they already more or less have an idea in mind on how regular they would use it. The types of equipment that we see oftentimes being purchased or selected are what we call wet steam machines and also dry steam machines. Wet steam machine basically for this type of application will be between 1,000 and 2,000 psi, and customers that look at these will look at a couple of different reasons to purchase a wet steam machine. They would be wanting to sanitize or clean their floors, the area surrounding where there might be good drainage, and a wet steam generally puts out between 3 to 4 gallons a minute. So it does put out quite a bit of water, and the temperature that these can become capable of is 250 degrees. Then when you get into a dry steam, the temperatures get up to 302 degrees, a bit hotter, but it's a dry vapor, so it's better for cleaning ducts and other surfaces in the area where the food is being prepared, or food production plants where they have high-level concerns about a lot of water being put out. And so basically those are the two types of machines that we more commonly recommend.
Excellent summary of the types of equipment that are used. Let me ask you a question on the levels of cleanliness required in food facilities. Can you address that in your training on the use of your equipment?
Well, again, in experience with dealing with a lot of people in this type of industry, the level of cleanliness is of utmost importance because of regulations and guidelines that they're trying to respect in their local areas. And because we're on a national level, in fact an international level here, we deal with people that have varying requirements. And so it's difficult for us to ascertain exactly what the requirements are across the board. But in general, we're well aware that there is a heightened concern, especially with a lot more people getting sick. And, you know, I mean, obviously we're all experiencing flus and colds more prolific than ever before. And so there's a heightened concern, I think, out there with people getting equipment that can sanitize and on a regular interval. And so one thing they commonly ask is, how durable is the machine? Is it going to work for us every single day? Can I use it 8 hours a day, 4 hours a day? And so we get into a dialogue about people that want to use the equipment constantly, and not periodically or seldom. And so we usually recommend belt-driven machines for this purpose because the pump basically turns at half the speed of the motor, and so the advantage there is that you're working the pump half as hard, and you get a better lifespan as a result. And people that want to use the machine, let's say 20 to 40 hours a week, will get a belt-drive machine for that purpose.
Thank you, Kevin. Let's chat for a minute about traditional cleaning methodologies that you've seen in your years of experience and how people are managed using those traditional cleaning methodologies, and use that in contrast to what we're going to talk about with your new pressure washer systems.
Okay. Well, there's a number of accessories that we can offer with our equipment that can really make the job a lot easier. And as with anything, having the right tools will greatly enhance your productivity. And with that, too, comes proper training and guidance. So one thing that, as we get into talking to some customers, a lot of times all they know about is the pressure washer. They don't know about any of the specific accessories that have been designed for their particular application. For example, for wet steam cleaning, for the larger surface areas in, let's say, interior of a food plant, we recommend surface cleaners, which are these large attachments that have a rotating head underneath, have several nozzles, and they can take up to 250 degrees. They're most of the ones that we recommend for this type of environment are made of 316L stainless steel, so it's a high-grade stainless. Everything on it is stainless: the nozzles, the rotor arm, the rotating head, every really wet part that gets touched is stainless, and that's critical for a lot of people working in this type of application. Another useful tool that we often talk about for duct cleaning is a rotating head. It has a steel cage that's either round or elliptical, depending on the size of the ducts you're cleaning. And they're also made of the high-grade 316L stainless, and they have food-grade seals so that when they're connecting to your lamps or to your hoses, the part that gets into the ducts has good resistance to any corrosives. And people that come to us will often not know about the duct cleaners. They'll know about sewer jetting nozzles, but they're not sure what these duct cleaners are for. And the nice thing about these is that they can be put into an area vertically or horizontally, and really to clean hood exhaust vents anywhere between 4 inches and 36 inches. So it gives you a pretty wide coverage of usage. And like I say, with anything, having the right tool available to you will really enhance your productivity. And they're relatively easy to use.
Well, Kevin, that's an excellent summary of the types of cleaning technologies that you offer. Let's talk about some of the applications of these pressure washer systems. And as we titled our segment today, 9 high-pressure wash issues for food production, let's start with the first one. You've already mentioned it, unclogging drains. How does that work?
Well, a lot of people that have a pressure washer aren't aware that they can also very easily convert that into a sewer jetting device. And it's really just a matter of purchasing a few little accessories to make that conversion happen. As a lot of people may know, a sewer jetter has a cavitation effect, where it's not giving you a steady stream of water, but rather a sporadic stream of water, and that gets you good agitation down your lines, your sewer pipes. And so when you have a pressure washer, there is something called a sewer jetter valve, or a pulse valve, that you can install in the center cap of the manifold of the pump. When you turn it into the off position, it disables that manifolds, or the center cap on that manifold, and so it basically gives you that cavitation effect. And then coupling that with a sewer jetting hose and a sewer jetting nozzle, the sewer jetting hose is a thermoplastic hose. It has a single steel wire braid running through it, so it gives you some good rigidity and good pliability, and while still giving good durability. Because once it goes into those lines and those tight turns and bends, obviously there could be stuff in there that could be pretty abrasive to the hose's outer casing. by the way, the outer casing of that hose is very slick, so it's very conducive to going down the lines in tight turns and bends. And the more common recommendation with sewer nozzles that we tell people to get in their basic tool set is the laser spray nozzle, which has a forward jet, which is good for breaking up heavy clogs ahead of you, not only roots and heavy debris, but also to break up grease and oil and anything that's impacted in the front of you. And then it has 3 rear jets, so that once you break through that blockage, then you can begin to pull out the hose and flush that stuff out. Another good nozzle to have as a basic is the corner nozzle, which gives you a side jet for those 90-degree bends that you might have. And then finally, what we call a rotating sewer nozzle, which has jets that come off 45 degrees and then rear jets as well. So it basically helps you clean those sidewalls. Another common thing that we find with food prep areas and restaurants is that they get a lot of grease and oil that's caked up on the sidewall. So they don't necessarily have a blockage blocking the front of you as you go into the line, but more or less caking from the sides where it restricts the water flow going in. And so these rotating sewer jetting nozzles are very nice for cleaning those sidewalls really well. And all these nozzles are all stainless steel, again, making sure that we're, not putting anything into the line that might have rust, and it's high-grade hardened stainless steel, so it won't have any flaking, and it has good corrosion resistance if you happen to be using chemicals. Another nice tool to have when you're using a pressure washer and making this conversion is to have some way to manage the water flow, either with a foot valve where you can have both hands free to handle the hose as you're putting it in and out of the line, or you can use a ball valve, which basically is a mechanism to turn the water flow on and off. Usually people that buy sewer hoses and do this conversion will connect their high pressure hose to the ball valve inlet side and then have the sewer hose on the outlet side and put that ball valve close to them where they're working near the pipeline so that they can easily manipulate the water flow. And that's very important because as you're taking the hose back out of the line or you're just starting to put it in, you don't want to have the water going, obviously. You want to have it off as you're going in.
Kevin, those are important details for any manager who is training their employees on how to use this particular equipment on the unclogging of drains. Let's talk, and you mentioned it briefly, the de-griming of grout and tile. It had some special apparatus that particularly helped without spreading the contamination potentially throughout the food facility.
Right. There's a surface cleaner that is, as I mentioned, all stainless steel. It can come either with a nylon brush skirt, which controls the outspray from underneath that housing, or you can get, we have installed for customers a special request, a antimicrobial blade that is basically put in around the circumference of this, and so it kind of controls the outspray, but it also, where it touches the surface, doesn't have any risk of microbes getting onto the surface as it's cleaning, and also so that the agents don't cake onto the sidewalls of this blade. So it's easy to clean. And the customers that look at this type of equipment want to be able to clean a very large area very quickly. If you're using just a standard spray nozzle, let's say 25-degree spray pattern, which is the most common nozzle spray angle, you could probably clean a 400 square foot space in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. That same space with a surface cleaner you can clean in about 10 minutes. So there's a dramatic improvement in cleaning time and productivity, and obviously with labor sometimes being short or not enough hands to do a job, or maybe it'd be a shift where there's not a lot of personnel, it's very important to be able to clean quickly and efficiently. And the nice thing about these is it has that rotating head that sort of, as it spins, it gives you an even clean. Another disadvantage of using a spray nozzle, a single nozzle on a larger surface, is you sometimes get what we call in our industry zebra striping, or an uneven cleaning where you get areas that look darker than others and it's apparent that somebody's been cleaning the area rather than getting a nice even clean. And a surface cleaner basically alleviates that zebra striping while getting deep into the porous surfaces. A lot of guys that buy these, like contractors that do it as a way of making a living outdoors, who use it on hard concrete and asphalt surfaces where they're very rough surfaces are not very smooth, like sometimes interior of a food plant. And so it gets into those deep divots and dips and uneven areas of the surface very effectively. So on a flat surface, it does a fantastic job.
Well, Kevin, you have outlined some amazing technologies, and I'd like to highlight one comment that you made which surprised me, and that's dramatic technology improvements in time management of the employees just with an attachment. And if you could take that as a manager and calculate the financial benefit and did a cost-benefit analysis on just an attachment, on saving essentially an hour of your employees' time and improving the safety and production of your product, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely. And you touched on something else there when you say safety with using the attachment. This apparatus makes sure that the nozzles are always facing down towards the surface, close to the surface it's cleaning, and doesn't pose any risk for employees that might be in the area or even the employee who's using the equipment of being, accidentally, let's say, striking their foot with it as they're cleaning with a single spray wand and nozzle. Intentionally, the industry has given a standard of 36 inches for the lance length, so that a standard height person will not have potential to hit their own foot with the spray. And by the way, for those of you who have not experienced, and I hope nobody has, but to get a cut from a high-pressure washer is the most nastiest cut. It's a ripping, tearing effect. It's not an even slice, and it's very hard to heal and extremely painful. And so when people are using shorter lances, when we talk to customers who want a 12 or a 24-inch lance, we're very, very cautious on that and giving proper disclaimer and warning about the risk factor, because that length is important to making sure that that employee doesn't hurt themselves. Another thing that we often sell as a sideline accessory is obviously safety boots. We have boots that are rated for higher pressures, 4,000, 5,000, even 7,000 PSI, which you've never seen in this kind of application. But point being is that a safety boot is not only a good idea for working in a wet surface area and also to keep their legs somewhat dry, but also to make sure that if accidentally that spray wand hits their toe, that it's not going to be penetrating their skin. And with these surface cleaners, the nice thing, as I said, is you have the apparatus down close to the surface. They're somewhat weighted, so about 30, 40 pounds, depending on the size you get. And so the risk of somebody lifting that up and, doing some damage to something in the area is very, very minimal. So for managers to trust that they're buying equipment that may be a little bit expensive on the front end, but may save time over the long run. But the biggest benefit is to have something that's safe for the employees to use, so they can trust that while it's being used, there's no risk to anybody in the surrounding area or themselves.
Well, Kevin, that's one of the benefits of our interview today. You bring a wealth of experience of not only the technology, but how people interact with it. Let's move on to cleaning windows. Now, I've inspected a number of food facilities, and I've seen large windows, and I've often wondered how the managers effectively maintain the cleanliness on a microbial level of those windows. Can you outline some of the new technologies for window cleaning?
Well, we have a couple of different suggestions that we usually make on that end. I mean, the more common, obviously, would be the rubber squeegee blade. And obviously, there are different levels of rubbers that can be used, different grades of steel on the blade that holds the rubber squeegee. And so in the food industry and in processing plants and packing houses, we usually recommend the APDM rubber squeegee. So basically it's good for cleaning up more caustic types of chemicals, but it's also very resistant to microbial agents. And so for safety factor, being able to reach in higher places and being able to effectively clean with these, as far as for a manager's level concern, is they can be comforted in the knowledge of buying a more expensive blade, but that the user will not be spreading any contamination when they're cleaning. And so some of the poles we offer can get you very high. They're telescoping ones that can get you as high as 24 feet, in fact, for reach. Some of the blades that we have are as wide as 48 inches. So for somebody to be able to reach high and get a large swath of area effectively is easily, easily done with these large blades. And a lot of people aren't aware that you can get a multiple choice of rubber inserts, and that you can even replace those inserts. And that's one of the more common things that we see here is customers that buy initially their first set of full squeegees, and then they get the refills down the road, and that way they can have some on hand on backup if there's any deterioration or quality of the blade. Another thing that we have just recently gotten into, in fact, is being well aware that the window washing application is a huge market for us. We've taken basically a hot water pressure washer that's electric, that just runs on 110 volt service, 15 amp service, so it's not anything complicated, plugs into any wall outlet, and it gives you 2 deionizing filters for spot-free water quality. And you can feed it with hot water or attach it to a burner and get some steam. And so again, the steam level for us for this application would be 250, and you can apply that, in close proximity. So if you're working with areas that are somewhat closer to you, you can sanitize and clean the windows and then come back with the squeegees that I was talking about. One thing that we're always very careful with, and we recently had a conversation with a customer that had a large food plant that had very, very high ceilings, and they wanted to clean very high up towards the roof area, and they wanted to use steam. We had to be very careful with the water that could be dripping down and potentially hitting the person that was working there. So one way that we accomplished that was to recommend a telescoping one. As I said, these can extend to 24 feet. They can collapse down to as short as 9 feet, and you can run hot water through them. So the nice thing about them is that you don't have to get on a ladder. You can stand firmly with both feet on the floor, which is a great advantage for safety. And you can stand at an angle so that if you have any dripping, it's going to hit the floor below it, not the person that's standing there using it, because it gives you good reach. And there are other attachments that you can use on the end of that, where you can bend and flex them in different positions to manipulate them, so that you can get a nozzle in a difficult area to reach. It may be an overhang, it might be underneath something, and so there's different spray flex ones that you can get that can allow you to bend into different areas easily. And so, again, that's one of the more common tools that we recommend.
Well, Kevin, I'll have to say this. I am amazed at the technical expertise you bring to the issue of the use of a high-pressure washer in a food facility, particularly when I think of many of my clients would just run down to a large department store and just buy any old washer and start using it in a food plant. Your expertise seems to be focused on microbial safety, the safety of the use of the equipment, and the attachments that prevent further cross-contamination in the plant. Let's talk about the air ducts.
Okay. Yeah, and that's something I touched on a little bit earlier in the talk. The duct cleaners can clean a vent width anywhere between 4 inches to as large as 36 inches. And the the types of ducts that you usually see these cleaning is, let's say, a vent, a pipe, or a keg, maybe a chute or a chimney, gutters, barrels, containers. It has a wide range of applications, in fact. And so it's not only used to clean, let's say, vent hoods in a restaurant, but let's say you have a large trash bin that needs to be sanitized and cleaned out, and you can get these rotating heads inside those bins, where before it was difficult to reach in and hit all the areas 360 degrees. You can insert this rotating head, and it will basically clean all the sidewalls. You can get them with adjustable heads so that they can clean upwards and downwards and sideways, and so you really get a good 360-degree cleaning effect. Again, these are all made of high-grade stainless steel, and it actually has a cage around it, which is stainless steel as well. So that way, if it starts thrashing around inside of the area that you're cleaning, that it protects the nozzles that are spinning around very quickly. Those nozzles spin at about 2,000 RPM, so it gives you a really good rate of clean. You can use them for up to 250 degrees temperature because the seals are rated up to those temperatures. And the customers that are looking for an application, will often not be aware that there's something in the pressure washing cleaning industry that can help them with this. And so, this often becomes a surprise. It's something that's not that new in the industry. It's been out probably about 5-7 years, but the customers that stumble across them or we direct them to them often will be surprised that there was actually something out there to use for this application, and with such a range of sizes and uses as well. I mentioned before, too, that you can use it horizontally or vertically. It uses a double load carbide swivel, so the nice thing about that is that it can take a load from being held upright or sideways or downwards, and still have a consistent cleaning effect.
Well, Kevin, those technologies and those details that you give about the degrees of temperature are particularly important to those that are interested in maintaining the microbial cleanliness of a food production plant. As we know, the only way we can kill microbes in a definite kill step is to raise the temperature at 160 degrees for 30 minutes. That's known as a kill step. Now, if you increase the temperature, then you can reduce the number of minutes down. Let's talk about wash surfaces. What are the benefits of a high-pressure wash to wash general surfaces?
Well, if we're talking about, let's say, entranceways or common areas where maybe a lot of employees might be using, might be high-traffic area for employees or even for customers, you want to be careful that you not only have a safe environment for them to walk through, but also that they're not bringing contaminations from one area to another. So just like you're being very cognizant of cleaning the food areas, you also want to make sure that you're not bringing contamination into that area. And so cleaning the surrounding areas very effectively with a high-pressure washer, we recommend between 3,000 and 4,000 psi to do a really good job to penetrate some of those more porous surfaces that you come across with concrete and asphalt areas. And so when it's not only a matter of presentation, of making your, the area where your customers might see or your employees might share as a common area, it's also a matter of safety and maintaining cleanliness and good quality of cleanliness. We will always recommend to customers where they might have grease or oil outside, let's say a fast food chain or a bank where there might be a lot of vehicles coming around the building or through the building area, and cars might be setting and there might be grease and oil dripping, that employees don't happen to walk through that area and then track that into the building. And so we recommend anywhere between 160 to 180 degrees, which is a standard hot water pressure washer. And again, going back to that surface cleaner as an advantageous tool to clean larger surface areas quickly to get in and out, especially where there could be traffic with vehicles and you don't want to be hanging around there too long with your hose running all over the place and cars running through there. So a lot of the times this type of cleaning is done before or after office hours, but sometimes it can't be done that way. So you want to be able to get in and out quickly, and also so that your employees are safe as well and not being put in risk of high traffic areas.
Well, Kevin, those are excellent points, particularly the temperatures that we're dealing with are extremely high. Let's talk about the cleaning of gutters. I found that particularly interesting because in my inspections of food plants, I find that those are collection points for runoff from roofs and also harborage for insects and other types of aviary-type organisms.
And we actually have a very nice tool to clean that area out effectively. And really, we don't expect customers to use hot water for this. Cold water would be fine. What's really important is a high volume of water at high pressure. So those gutters and downspouts generally will recommend anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 psi. And by the way, most pressure washers will have a way to adjust the pressure manually. You have an unloader valve, which basically allows you to control the amount of pressure that it's putting out, so that you're not really putting too much pressure into an area that might not be able to handle it. And sometimes gutters can handle 4,000 psi, so you might need to back it off to 2,000 to 3,000 psi. And there's a couple of different attachments you can use. One that we most often recommend is a telescoping wand, and this is again that same attachment we're talking about for that customer of ours that had to reach up high inside the building. Same idea. You stand both feet on the ground. You can stand sort of at an angle to the building, and one of the least expensive attachments that we offer is called a gutter cleaner, and basically it's a U-shaped pipe that gets you to curve around and into the gutters, and your nozzle attaches at the end there so that you can clean out these gutters and blow out any blockages or debris or leaves or insects, as you mentioned. Another really cool attachment that has just come out the last 2 years is called a gutter ball, and we've actually sold quite a lot of these into the European market, is particularly in the UK, where they have very tall buildings and very narrow passes in between them where they can't reach the gutters with ladders and traditional ways of doing it. So these telescoping wands have become in high demand, and this gutter ball is nice because instead of using a single spray nozzle that shoots downward as it curves up and around into them, it has a ball that is steel, and it has two nozzles that come off of it at 45 degrees that will shoot in either direction. So you basically run this ball inside of the gutters as you walk, again, on the ground with this telescoping wand, and you can shoot either to the left and to the right and get out the gutters cleaned out a lot quicker. The difference in price of these two attachments is about $100, but the time savings and being able to get in and out of those gutters quickly, especially if you have a large warehouse structure or a large plant where you've got a lot of length of gutters, again, to get in and out quickly is of utmost importance to a lot of managers.
Well, Kevin, you outlined a couple of interesting points. One is, there may be an incremental cost in the upfront capital acquisition of these new tools, but the time savings and the safety factors seem to outweigh that in the long run. Let's talk about washing off of walkways. You brushed on it earlier, of employees entering food plants. There's a lot of internal traffic in a food plant where the potential for cross-contamination can take place. And I believe that high-pressure washers can help in the washing of walkways.
Yeah, absolutely. And the most common type of equipment that we recommend for that usage would be, at a starting point, about 180 degrees Fahrenheit, a hot water pressure washer. A lot of times they will have a stationary machine that will have electric motor So it's quiet running and very clean running. No fumes or loud noise, a very low decibel rate, which is also a concern. And they will employ either natural gas or propane burners to heat the water. And a lot of times in these environments, that's accessible and already exists there at the site. So to use natural gas or propane is nice because it's something they have available to them. And then they will take the exhaust and pipe it out in some way. It uses a 10-inch exhaust, and so you don't have to worry again about fumes from the burner emitting into the workspace. And they will do it as a stationary setup. Another machine that we often recommend will be an all-electric hot water machine. Again, being stationary, and the idea of having it centralized is that you can have runs of hose that can be put throughout the facility. A lot of times they'll hard pipe let's say a 1-inch or 2-inch pipeline through the walls of the facility, and then have quick connect outlets at different points of the area they need to clean. And so the user doesn't have to basically lug a pressure washer around the facility. That's it being put into like a maintenance room or a cleaning room somewhere. And they just carry the hose and the gun and wand around with them, and they plug into these outlets throughout the workspace, and they can hit the trigger, and on demand they can have water. And so the trigger actuates the water flow, and so the person doesn't have to go back to the machine, shut it down, or turn it off. They can just plug into the outlet wherever they are, and they could be a distance away from the machine, in fact, maybe 200 feet or so, and just plug in their 50-foot hose, work in that area, and then go on to work in the next area as they plug in around the facility wherever their service intervals might take them in their schedules. And so the nice thing about that, from a safety aspect, is that you don't have, let's say, a pressure washer that might be blocking an area with a run of hose that might be a tripping hazard. The user can just carry the hose and the gun and wand with them and maybe lay out safety cones so that it's apparent that he's working in the area. And he can easily manage carrying the hose, the gun, the wand, and the cones rather than having to push a heavy 300 or 400-pound machine with a hot water burner on it that can be very cumbersome and very slow to move around. So a common recommendation is to have a centralized hot water pressure washer somewhere in the facility and then have piping throughout the walls and these outlets to plug the hoses into.
Kevin, that's an excellent suggestion for known high-traffic areas that can be designed into the protocols of the maintenance for the facility. Let's talk about removing water and muck. That could be a particular issue, again, with the spreading of what we call buildup or microbial contamination or potentiality for contamination that has been, over time, left and unattended, removing of water and muck.
And we actually have a fantastic attachment for this application, and it's so simple, and people who see it on a video we have on our website are just amazed at how easy it is to really design something like this. And it's interesting because since I've been in the pressure washing industry, I've seen such a evolution of technology which has really come out of very simple designs but very effective. And one thing that we use or recommend a lot is something called a muck scupper, and it's kind of like using a water pump where you're removing large amounts of water very quickly from an area. It might be pulled up or puddled up someplace and might have solids in it like muck and grime. And what it basically is you use a standard pressure washer and you attach this muck scupper attachment at the end of your spray wand, just like you would your nozzle. And it basically has a cone. It can be either circular or one that we sell more commonly has a stainless steel rectangular attachment that comes off of where the nozzle would be. And you lay that into your water, and then it has a hose that's running back out of the area, And the nozzle that's inside of this stainless steel rectangular space shoots in reverse, and it creates a Venturi effect, which is a suction effect, and it begins to pull the water out of the area and discharging it out wherever you want to discharge it, several feet away, can be up to 100 feet away, in fact. And what we provide with this attachment is the nozzle piece, the rectangular stainless steel housing that goes around it, and then the discharge hose. And the nice thing about it is you can use a standard pressure washer and be able to remove up to 90 gallons per minute, which is an immense productivity rate when you're talking about not having to buy another piece of equipment to, like a vacuum system or a water pump or some other mechanism to remove the water. We also sell those too, but when somebody's wanting to be efficient and they want to use the equipment they already have, or they're buying a pressure washer but they don't want to buy another piece of equipment, then we recommend this as a very easy solution. And the nice thing about it is that the rectangular housing is also 316L stainless, so it will not, it won't pick up contamination easily, or be very resistant to corrosives in case whatever's in the water might be more harsh. And it can pick up heavy solids up to 2 inches and very effectively and quickly through that discharge hose. And so this has become a very popular attachment. This type of attachment has evolved over the last 2 years to be what it is today. But to be able to remove 90 gallons a minute with a pressure washer is incredible.
Well, Kevin, that sounds like an amazing technological leap for food plants, because when I'm inspecting them, I see a lot of water on the surfaces of the production floor, and I'm wondering, what is the most efficient way to remove that water? And I've always been tempted to ask the plant manager, but you've offered an interesting solution in this muck scupper. What is the pricing on an attachment like that and the entire other pieces of equipment that involved in that equipment setup?
Well, basically you just need a pressure washer, which oftentimes people already have, and for about $95, which is a lot less than buying a $1,000 water pump or a large vacuum system. It's a very minimal investment. And with that, you get the spray nozzle, that housing I described, which encloses the nozzle, and then you get a long run of heavy ribbed hose for a discharge hose that basically allows you to take that water away. And as I said, it's so impressive to see how it can take 90 gallons of water per minute and just evacuate out of the area very, very quickly, just using a pressure washer and that Venturi effect. Pressure washers already use the Venturi principle of siphoning detergents with your chemical injector when you're running detergents off of your pump. And so this is basically using that same principle of physics to create a suction at the tip of your wand to remove water.
Well, let's talk about the quick dry application. I'm particularly interested in that, and it's just the same as the muck scupper.
Well, there's another way that you can approach that type of application or use. The muck scupper is more designed for larger pools of water or areas that might have a little bit more depth to them. If you're going to be removing a thin layer of water from a surface, obviously you can use squeegees, and that's something that we often recommend. But another thing that people will use, going back again to those surface cleaners, is there are some surface cleaners that we have that have a vacuum port, and you can attach a wet-dry vac to them. And so as you're putting the water out, you're sucking the water back up. About 95% of that water will come back up off the surface. So essentially it's leaving you with a very dry path behind you as you're cleaning. The nice thing about that is that as the worker is going through the space and cleaning the floor, he's removing the water so that it doesn't become a tripping hazard or a safety issue for people who are coming behind him who happen to have to cross through the area. The other nice thing about it is that you're not leaving the potential of the stuff just collecting or pooling in the area. You're picking it up as quickly as you're putting it out. And so we often suggest partnering up with a surface cleaner with these vacuums so that you can remove the water as you're working. Another thing that you can also do, we have something called a vacuum boom, which is a water containment system. So rather than having to be tethered by a surface cleaner, a pressure washer, and a vacuum to do this type of job, you can have a vacuum with a large boom system that's attached to the vacuum hose. It can be 20 feet or 40 feet. So this is good for large surface areas where a worker could be using a pressure washer, and the vacuum with this large boom can be removing the water wherever it's gravitating to. Sometimes, obviously floors are uneven, so water will pool in one area or another. And so this boom actually, once the vacuum is turned on, has a rubber seat that sucks onto the surface, so it creates a nice damming effect. And then every 5 feet along this boom, there are ports where the vacuum will suck the water, and it'll go into the vacuum. We can have a two-stage vacuum where we'll have a discharge hose too, so that it can discharge outside, for example, and it can discharge up to 100 feet out. And so the nice thing about that is the water can be, again, removed from the workspace as quickly as it's being put out, and the worker doesn't have to, in this case, be tethered by all that heavy equipment, carrying it and moving it around to each area. They can clean a very large workspace very quickly and have the water containment system take care of the removal of the water on its own without having to attend to it at all. Just leave it set up and running.
Well, Kevin, you've given us an amazing amount of information in a very short time. You've addressed the majority of issues, I think, that managers would want to know with the use of microbial splashing issues with these high-pressure washers. Can you address for a minute, in general, a review of the use of high-pressure washer systems in food production facilities?
Well, in a general summary and in dialogues with our customers, we find that the most common concern is being productive, efficient, and also effective. And so again, going back to using the right tool for the job, it creates a situation where the managers don't have to worry about safety concerns if they're using the right equipment. The employees don't have to worry about laboring too much over a particular job because they have the right tool and they can get in and out quickly. For the surrounding area, the employees don't have to worry about safety issues, about water being on the surface. It could be tripping hazard, hoses laying out. And so something as simple as getting a hose reel and attaching it to the pressure washer so that the hose is reeled up when it's not in use, or when you're not using the full length of it, you can just reel it up. Just simple ideas like that that may not occur to people, but really help in the long run of creating a more safer workspace and still being effective in cleaning. Critical temperatures, and as you said before, that we find is anywhere between 160 and 180 degrees for a hot water pressure washer for the centralized workstations, and then going into steam, where we have a wet steam of about 1,000 to 2,000 psi with 4 gallons a minute, let's say, for example, where you're not really concerned about putting a lot of water out, but you need that volume really as a good aid to cleaning effectively. When I talked about those pressure or surface cleaners and using them with a pressure washer, you really need a lot of volume of water to drive those, because those swivels turn with water volume, not pressure. And so having a wet steam, you'll not only have the advantage of the hot water, but you'll have the advantage of cleaning that larger surface area with a surface cleaner. And then when water that you're putting out has to be minimal and you just want to work in a confined workspace, can take you up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and the steam volume is about a half a gallon to 1 gallon per minute, and usually only about 100 to 500 psi. And so customers that often look for this type of equipment or have concerns about putting a lot of water out or being able to control the work area a little bit better and not having a high risk factor with water put out. And so we really, there's a wide range with a hot water pressure washer, and sometimes when we get into a dialogue with a customer, they may say to us, this is what I want, but as we ask them questions and find out what they're using it for, it may take us in an entirely different direction. Sometimes it becomes a less expensive direction, and they say, gee, you saved me money, I'm glad, thank you for your recommendation. Or it may take us to a more expensive application or upfront investment for the application, and the result is they're spending a little bit more, but they're much more effective. Their employees are working smarter, more efficiently, and safely.
Well, Kevin, your information that you've given us really emphasizes, in my mind, the importance of engaging somewhat of your expertise and your consulting as a national sales manager for Ultimate Washer, in comparison to simply running down to a hardware store and buying a pressure washer. Can you let us know the best ways to contact you, perhaps your website or your telephone numbers for your national sales team?
Yeah, sure. We actually have a team of about 6 people here that are all very well trained in multiple applications, and there are various applications we cover, all the way up to 40,000 PSI with water jetting. You can reach us by calling our toll-free number, which is 866-858-4982, or you can see our full spread of catalog items with pricing and specifications on www.ultimatewasher.com. We do encourage all of our customers to give us a call to talk about the equipment they're purchasing. We'd rather our customers be informed and educated as much as they can be and use the equipment properly, rather than just making a selection. I mean, a lot of times our customers already self-educate. There's a wealth of information on our website and articles that you can read to find out more about a specific application by just searching on our website. And then if you have questions about availability or maybe there's another tool that you could be looking at or an accessory that you could be looking at that could help you do the job better, then by all means, give us a call and we can walk you through it.
Well, Kevin, I'd like to thank you for your time today and the excellent, informative discussion that we've engaged in, and allow you at this point to offer any closing remarks, and feel free to offer any commercialized message you wish at this point, even if it feels a little self-aggrandizing.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Andy. Yeah, I mean, as I said before, Ultimate Washer really started out in 2003 at the beginning of pressure washers being offered over the Internet, and that's our primary mode of business. We do have a store and a warehouse where customers can walk in and talk to us face-to-face, but a lot of the business, especially in today's day and age where purchasing is being done over the Internet or over the phone, we find that that's the best mode of operation for us. And a lot of times customers don't necessarily have to kick the tires and try it out anymore. They just have an idea of what they need to do, and that's where they get into a dialogue with us about what exactly they need to buy to make their job easier and more effective. And so because a lot of times we hear all the questions repeat, we're well aware and almost scripted, in fact, in some cases, as our response comes out on what we can recommend for different applications. I can't say every day is a learning experience, and sometimes we come across a unique question or a first time we've heard something, and so we do have a wealth of engineers and technicians and over 200 suppliers that we partner up with that may have come across this application at one point or another, and so we try to hone in on them and find out what we can recommend for a customer, and then we can offer our best suggestion. We also have full customization ability, so whereas you can buy a standard pressure washer at Home Depot or Lowe's, you can order a pressure washer to your specifications, to your design needs, whether it be portable or stationary or hot or cold or a specific voltage or even mounted on a trailer a specific way, or even with a pressure that may not have been done before. I mentioned we can go up to 40,000 psi with very high flow rates for cutting concrete and rebar and demolition. But we can go as low as 1,000 psi for those smaller duty applications in cleaning. And so oftentimes talking to different customers about those ranges of pressures, you find there's often a question out there that you've never heard before. And we'll be the first to tell you, that's a good one. I've never heard of that before, but let me research it a little bit. And if you don't mind, I'll get back to you. And we always get back to you with some response. Whether it be a good one or not, I don't know. But oftentimes we do, as I say, partner up with other experts in our industry through going to trade shows and networking with other manufacturers and suppliers so that we can share experiences and information about new technologies and applications that could be out there.
Well, Kevin, again, I'd like to thank you for your participation today and allow you to say anything else before we close our program.
All right. Well, I just want to say, Andy, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners today. I feel like it is a very hot topic nowadays with cleanliness of work areas, and particularly as it addresses maintenance of food production facilities. It's definitely becoming a rapidly important topic in our industry with industrial cleaning equipment and pressure washing. And so any time that we have an opportunity to talk to an audience and allow them to understand what we do here and how we can help in your application and provide good support and safety for your employees, I appreciate the opportunity immensely.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. And if you come up with any new innovations, feel free to contact me and come back on the show and let our audience know about it.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. You as well, Andy. Bye-bye.
Bye now.